Hey everybody, it's summer here in Toronto, and as you can see, things tend to get very lush here. It's just something I find in general in southern Ontario. In particular in Canadian cities, you have a lot of green spaces. At least that's been my experience compared to some other countries I visited. You just have a lot of parks, a lot of plants, a lot of trees, that sort of thing. But we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about commenters' criticism and bait, which is an interesting topic. Now, I'm going to start out by saying I'm far from perfect on this. Far from perfect. But I think I've gotten a lot better over the years. And it's something, if you want to do any kind of content creation, you have to at least just aim to get better at. I think it's unrealistic when people say, oh, people insulting me or people making fun of me or people criticizing me doesn't affect me. Because I think it's very, very rare that someone is that immune, but it's just something you work on and you get better at. And that was kind of one of the things I started doing YouTube for, was to get better at that kind of thing. So, comments. I think something important to keep in mind is the idea that you're being trolled or that a commenter might be trolling you is paranoia. Because it isn't paranoia. This is the internet. Like 50% of everything on the internet is people trolling other people or people trying to take the piss out of someone or trying to get a reaction or something, or like concern trolling or something. That's very common. That it's not like that's some sort of a conspiracy or like paranoia to think that. It's also not paranoia to think that some forms of criticism are probably people trolling you or people trying to get a rise out of you. And people criticize guys like DSP and a lot of these kind of content creators who have thin skins for believing criticism against them is a form of trolling. And a lot of it isn't, but a lot of it is. A lot of it, in my opinion, is people who don't have any real interest in them doing better or getting better. They're just trying to piss them off by bringing up sensitive subjects or subjects they don't really want to talk about per se. So, I guess you can divide commenters in a couple different categories. There's people who have legitimate criticism and relevant criticism. I just before we get into this, I guess, just to say, as with anything interpersonal, it can be difficult to read what people's intentions are. And on the internet, you have this whole like autism thing, this whole you can't read social cues. The truth of the matter is it's very hard to read social cues in a comment section, because not only do you not have facial expressions, but you don't have like the pauses and the emphasis and the other things that would indicate something. Like you can say, oh, that looks great, or oh, that looks great. And once again, you can have these things and they have completely different meanings, and it's very hard to tell in the comment sections. In general, is this sarcasm, is this real? And that's not autism, that's not an inability to read social cues, that's just kind of the issue. And sometimes when people are joking with you, it's not always apparent, and you might think that they're insulting you or attacking you. So my point being is, these things aren't always apparent, and you're not autistic, you're not like bad at social interactions if you find some of these things complex and difficult to deal with. So I'd say, like, when it comes to criticism, there's criticism I think you can say is this is valid and this is relevant. That is, they are legitimately pointing out a problem. You might agree or disagree with their solution or how much you can realistically do about it, but you in your personal judgment think that they're coming from a place of wanting you to be better or trying to make a legitimate point, not just to like piss you off. And I think in general, you should at least think about it. If only for a few seconds, maybe thank the person. You might want to do a response, maybe saying, oh, I'm considering that, or thank you, or something like that. And it's once again, it's very difficult to tell when that's the case. If you have people who are like regulars and have followed you for a while, it's a bit better for it. But some of the time it's like, you don't know if it's ironic or not. So you have that. You have people who make criticism that is a valid but not necessarily relevant criticism, or something that's not really like doable, like change your entire channel's content, or like something like that, or like do YouTube full time or something like that, or buy this really expensive software. So in that case, once again, I think it's valid criticism, but you just kind of have to maybe explain to the person if you feel like it. You're not under any obligation to respond to criticism. The only time you are is if you ask for criticism and then you refuse to either respond to it or to act on it or consider any of it. Then you're really kind of screwing the pooch on that one. But yeah, and then you have bait. And bait takes a lot of different forms. The best bait often takes the form of concern trolling. Concern trolling is when you pretend to be on the person's side and, well, concerned for their well-being, concerned for their success, and you use that as a way to suggest something that is objectively bad for the person. Like, someone might be a, I don't know, like they might have a political channel, and it's like, I think to succeed you need to be more uncensored, so drop a bunch of N-bombs and stuff like that in your channel, and that'll really help you out, when what you're trying to do is to get them kicked off of YouTube, or something like that. Or like a concern troll that the conservatives did against liberals for a long time was, oh, what about women in the Islamic world? As a way, to try to break up that kind of alliance, as it were. So that's kind of concern trolling. So that's often what people do. And it's, I think, one of the more effective ways of doing it. Like if somebody just posts and says, oh, you're a piece of shit, you sound like a retard or something, like that sort of thing doesn't really hurt, because that's just that's obviously just them screwing with you. Oh crap, am I gonna get attacked by pigeons? But like feigned concern is a good one. Like that's one of the few things that I think kind of bait me, because back in, like, when I first started, if people called me an asshole or people called me like a racist or a homophobe or something, I'd respond and I'd try to get into a debate or an argument. But over time I kind of came to the conclusion that most of that was just people trolling me, or people just attacking me, and they weren't really interested in having a conversation. If somebody posts like an actual statement like, I don't know, I think that you're being unfair by judging all people of a certain group the same way, and they kind of like offer an argument and they just don't resort to yelling at you, I think that's kind of different. And if you can either respond to that in the comment section or make a video, or say, whenever I have people who do that, I try to at least say, I appreciate you leaving an actual argument or leaving an actual comment, and not just yelling at me. So like, it's not just criticizing your style or your or how you live your life or that kind of thing, but if they're challenging your opinion, but there's like an actual challenge, it's not just them yelling, you're a racist, sexist, xenophobe, homophobe, Islamophobe, all that kind of thing, then that's more of the kind of thing that you should be responding to. But yeah, a lot of the time it's just them trying to get a rise out of you. It's just them trying to piss you off and get you to respond and get you riled up. And they'll just kind of keep moving the goalposts and keep trying to just piss you off. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, and I've gotten really better at that over the years. I think another way that people really try to kind of troll you is, and this is from the Young Turks of all things, they pointed out the most effective insults are the ones that have some truth to them. Like, if someone was to say to me, you're an axe murderer, or you're like a space mutant, or you're COINTELPRO or something, like, that's not going to affect me, because that's just, it's absurd. It doesn't have any context. If someone was to say you're fat and you have no self-control, that would hurt a lot more, because I am overweight. and in my case, people tend to do, you're autistic or something, and I don't actually have autism, but it is something that I understand because of my irregular prosody. I kind of sound a bit like I do. So it's something I'm more sensitive about because it's closer to like actual reality. Same thing if someone calls you, I certainly don't consider myself to be an incel, but I can kind of see where people might be coming from a certain extent. So that irritates me more than some other things would be. So that's often, and the problem with that, once again, is that it's very hard to differentiate between actual criticism, like they're trying to criticize aspects of yourself, or if they're trying to just screw with you. And in general, I think if when in doubt, you should just ignore. Read the comment and just don't respond. There's really no downside to not responding to something. If you don't not sure if it's a troll or a concerned troll or someone just trying to screw with you, just don't respond. Don't feed the trolls. The number one thing that gets people trolled constantly is that they respond to it. Is that they make, like in DSP's case, he makes like a video every day pretty much complaining about the haters and complaining about the trolls. Chris Chan did that. Ralph does that. If you show them they're bothering you, if you're showing them that they're getting a rise out of you, they're going to keep doing it. If you just ignore them, you don't respond to them, you don't address them, if they go in your chat, you just don't refer to them, generally speaking, they get bored and go away. That's the way you deal with it. Now, that being said, there are times where you may want to respond to it. And if you do a response, you have to not come across as being like a bitch. You just go, okay, so people have been asking this, or people have been saying this, so here's what I think about it, or here's why I don't think it's true. And you don't yell, you don't scream, you don't like call these people assholes. You just say, look, people have been saying this. This is why I don't think it's fair. This is why I don't think it's accurate. And then you just kind of calmly list the reasons, and you calmly just kind of present your points. And people might say that's getting a rise, but I think it's nowhere near as bad a way to respond to something as just spurting out and yelling at people in chat, or making a video yelling like leave Britney alone or something like that. So you notice I occasionally will do a video where like I mentioned DSP a lot, but he's kind of, like I said, the exemplar for this kind of thing, where people have said, oh, you're obsessed with DSP, you hate him, that kind of thing, you wish him ill. And then I'll do maybe a video talking about that, or like people will say something about, I don't know, my review style or the tone I take, and I do like a video saying, like, not everything I say is supposed to be literal. I use a lot of hyperbole and like that kind of thing, and disproportionate anger as kind of a way of trying to like entertain you. And that it's people who think this is literal, it's not literal. So like those would be cases it's okay to respond, but once again, you don't freak out, you don't start swearing at people, you don't start getting angry. If you're going to respond to like some mass thing or something people are saying that you're not really sure about, you just do it in a calm and measured way. Now, I'm not going to pretend I always follow these rules, but these are just kind of some thoughts I have. If you're looking to get into content creation, these are just some things I've figured out over the years. Anyways, as always, God bless you all. This is Argent. We must descend.